To be slaughtered that way was beyond shocking. It was stunning.
It was just indescribable, really, what happened there.
The family just wants closure on this after 41 years.
You can't commit acts like this and get away with it. Can't happen.
The shopping center, Terry Court, was built in 1958. Right there is where High's Ice Cream was in 1967. It was just a terrible situation. Indescribable, really, what happened there.
When Stanton, Virginia investigator Davy Bocock arrives on the scene, he has no way of knowing the true severity of the situation.
Dave Bocock, he and I drove up at the same time. And he and I walked in the store at the same time, walked in together. We couldn't see anything in the front, so we went straight to the back, and we saw the murder scene, the two girls lying there, and a lot of blood. Back then, the Stanton Police Department had neither photographer nor camera. Davey asked me to photograph the scene.
Call a rescue squad.
I took my first aid kit from the car, and I saw Officer Davy Bocock.
Kenny, get in here. See what you can do.
He pointed to a storage area, and I went back in there, and that's when I discovered the two victims. What amazed me so much was the amount of blood. One was lying to my left, and she had been shot in the head, and I checked her pulse, and it was obvious she was deceased. So I turned my attention to the other one, and she was still alive. I turned her over, and I realized who she was. She was a Carolyn Hevener. I've seen suicides, I've seen multiple fatalities, and nothing really hit me as hard as that did.
20-year-old Carolyn Hevener Perry and her sister-in-law, 19-year-old Connie Hevener, are both shot once in the head at close range, execution style, with .25 caliber bullets. Connie dies at the scene, while Carolyn is rushed to the hospital, fighting for her life.
We got her out of there as soon as we could, put her in the back of the ambulance, and took her to King's Daughters Hospital. I was trying to get her to talk, and she just wasn't responsive. As I recall, we kept oxygen on her and kept the wound, kept it compressed, but wasn't a whole lot we could do. She had passed away.
This was shocking. It caught the community off guard. It stunned the city of Stanton and the residents of Stanton.
I had a cousin, she was terrified. It really had an effect on her.
To be slaughtered that way was beyond shocking. It was stunning.
For the next 4 decades, this small town's most notorious crime will remain unsolved. That's when Lowell Sheets decides to get involved.
Well, Stanton definitely was a southern town, had southern traditions. Very rarely did you have a murder. I'm kind of an activist. I like to be involved. Connie and I knew each other through high school. We were in the same class together.
Lowell Sheets isn't the only one still troubled by the double murders. His distant relatives, Connie Hevener's mom Laverne and twin brother Carol, pray one day the girl's killer will be brought to justice.
Well, she was special to me. I lived for that girl.
As fraternal twins, Carol and Connie share a unique bond.
Children that live together in a womb and then experience life outside of it, yeah, they're close, very close.
Connie was very loving, and especially like she was a mother hen over her brother. And they just got along real good, really did.
How's it going?
Going well?
Good.
Yeah.
Did you guys catch the game?
We did. Yeah. That was amazing. Oh my
Saw
God.
you throw the winning touchdown.
She was cheerleader, and everyone loved her. They really did. She had a lot of friends. I don't remember if Carolyn was a cheerleader or not. She might have been, but I know Connie was. They were real good friends.
Working together at the ice cream store owned by Carolyn's family brings them even closer.
Friday night, but I guess I'm gonna go. I know. I'll get my dress ready.
In 1965, the girls become sisters-in-law when Connie marries Carolyn's brother after graduation.
They was almost like acting like a sisters. Connie enjoyed Carolyn. She enjoyed everything that was more or less happening in life. She was happy.
But that happiness is taken away far too soon, and for reasons Carol fears he may never know.
I was blinded. I thought everybody in this world must have had to have something to do with her death. It's like a nightmare that won't end.
And it won't end until they find answers. A promise local authorities made with the family 35 years earlier, but haven't been able to fulfill.
We know Davy Bocock was one of the prime investigators in important cases. He was probably the best investigator Stanton had at the time. The first thought was that there had been a robbery because there was a money bag missing and there was an amount of money, I believe about $138 missing from the cash drawer area.
We got plenty of photographs. Okay.
Hey, officers, I don't know what happened there, but I may have some information that maybe have helped to you. Well, I saw a short black man with a pipe.
A short black man with a pipe.
Yeah, and a white man with him just running.
24-year-old school teacher Barry Jones steps forward and tells investigator Bocock everything he saw. An unexpected but desperately needed lead.
Where were they running to?
I don't know. I just saw him running across the parking lot.
The police followed that lead. As a matter of fact, they actually got some dogs involved in trying to pick up a scent and follow those people, but that amounted to nothing.
Later, the eyewitness admits that he made the story up.
You got somebody that interjects themselves into an investigation, and then you disprove some of the things that they tell you. They even admit that. Then you start thinking, well, why would they lie about that? So immediately they start becoming a suspect.
He was at the scene. He made no bones about that. And in a way, he acted strangely. He said strange things, inconsistent.
I think at that time, if he was going through a difficult period, he had just been informed that he would not be rehired for the next year as a teacher. His wife came from a well-to-do, prominent family, and she expected maybe more than what he produced. He kind of lost some of his moorings, so to speak.
6 months after the slayings, Jones is no longer a key witness. He's now the prime suspect.
A woman who had gone into the High's store that night to buy ice cream saw him again and said, "That's the man I saw in the High's store the night of the murders." But of course, he denied ever being in the High's store that night or any other night.
Based on Bocock's report, the Stanton police charge him with 1 count of murder.
They made a decision at the time that they would only charge the murder of Connie Hevener just in case anything went awry. They could still charge the murder of Carolyn Perry. That was just a decision they made at the time, not to charge with both.
Stanton residents prepare for the biggest murder trial the city has ever seen. But outside the courthouse, Connie Hevener's twin brother Carol decides to render his own verdict.
The day that she was killed, something in my brain went boop, just like that. And I carried a knife All of a sudden, I snapped my hand. I said, that's him.
Six months after his sister's death, Carol Smoots watches the main suspect in her murder, Barry Jones, walk the streets of Stanton, Virginia, free on bail.
I saw him coming out of the liquor store. And I rushed up there to him. And I was right on his rear end. He kept looking. I kept staring at him. I don't know if it was God's will or Connie's will, but I was blinded for just a split second, just enough time to give him to make a turn. And he recognized me and he left. Oh, I'd have done it. Yeah, I'd have done it. Been a mistake, but I'd have done it.
Jones escapes the wrath of Carol Smoots, but he still must face the prosecutor, a jury, and a witness who claims she saw him just before the murders.
She identifies him as the person she saw in the store eating a banana split. She did not get a full frontal view of the person who was seated there, and the defense very aggressively challenged her identification of him. This was a circumstantial evidence case based on an identification that was very questionable and highly challenged.
There was never any real evidence. I mean, if you really followed the case, it was all just innuendo. There was no blood on him, no gun. It was so flimsy.
It takes only 3 hours for the jury to find Jones not guilty.
There was a lot of pressure from the press in this case to find the killer. Bocock later made a statement that he felt they hadn't done enough at the time they brought him to trial, that more needed to be done, but they'd kind of been pressured into it.
For Stanton police, the case eventually goes cold. Finding Connie and Carolyn's murderer gets sidelined for more solvable crimes.
As the years progressed, I never heard a word about it. And then it got to the point where they would do a newspaper special about every 10 years, and that was it. There was really never any ongoing investigation or any reports that there were new leads or anything, really.
35 years after the murders, the man who knows the most about the slayings is still the original investigator, retired detective Davy Bocock.
So we had a talk, and there again, everything was still the high school teacher.
There's been hundreds of leads, hundreds of theories. I've chased them all. He's the guy.
He said if you could find yourself or somebody could go drinking with him, he'd admit to that crime. And I said, were there ever any other creditable suspects? He kind of looked away from me to the side a little bit. And he said, no. That was it.
The meeting encourages Lowell to dig deeper. And he finds that Davy Bocock's early investigation raises more questions than answers.
I'd read the newspaper articles and all the hoopla they had put out about all these interviews they had conducted, but yet we find out none of the family members were ever interviewed.
In pursuing his main suspect, Bocock overlooks several others.
I didn't think he was nefarious, but then as some of these other facts came to play, I said, now wait a minute, what's going on here?
When Joyce Bradshaw learns that Lowell is looking into the ice cream store murders, she decides after 40 years of painful silence, it's time for her to talk. In 1967, Joyce works with a 19-year-old named Diane Crawford at an institution for the mentally ill. Diane also works part-time at the ice cream store.
Miss Williams today.
She's such a bore.
So boring.
A bore.
I can't even take her. If she doesn't stop talking, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
But Johnny was absolutely.
I was astounded. She says, we went to Kenny Burger to have a hamburger.
We were sitting in the car eating a hamburger, and she had something she wanted to show me.
Open up the glove compartment. What are you doing with that? There's 2 bullets in there. One's for my stepfather, and the other's for that Hevener girl.
One for her stepfather, whom she had accused of sexually abusing her when she was young, and the other was for Carolyn Hevener.
I just had the feeling, she was just mouthing off, I reckon, is what I was thinking. So I did not say anything to anybody about what she told me, because I just didn't think it was anything to it.
Ten days later, the Hevener girl, Carolyn Hevener Perry, is murdered.
I said, well, good gracious, why didn't you tell the police this? I'm sure it would have made a big difference. And she said, well, I did.
I went to David Bocock, who was in charge of the investigation, and I told him my story.
Hello?
Hi. So I met with Diane, and I saw a gun in her glove box. And she told me that there were 2 bullets in that gun, one for her stepdad, and the other was for that Hevener girl.
Listen, thank you for that, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Listen, don't tell anybody about this conversation, okay?
Okay.
I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
He told me that he would get back to me. And he did get back to me in a short period of time. I was called to go to the parking lot that someone wanted to see me. And it was David Bocock.
I just wanted to tell you I checked out your story about Diane. She had nothing to do with it. She passed the lie detector test, and her gun does not match the murder weapon.
I knew he was lying to me, but he was an investigator and I was basically nobody.
What Bocock says next ensures that Joyce Bradshaw never speaks of her conversation with Diane Crawford again.
Diane comes out to the farm a lot to practice. Shooting guns. She's a crack shot. You have a good day.
I think that he meant for me to back off and stay out of the way. That Diane does have a gun and that she would kill me. I felt like I might be her next target.
For over 40 years, Stanton, Virginia's most notorious crime, the double murder of Connie Hevener and Carolyn Hevener Perry, remained unsolved. When finally, a witness comes forward.
It was scary. I never told my husband. I never told my mother. I never told a soul.
Shortly after the murders, Joyce Bradshaw's life is threatened. Not once.
Diane comes out to the farm a lot to practice. Shooting guns. She's a crack shot.
But twice.
About a week after the murder, which was April 11, 1967, she had received a call from Diane Crawford asking her to meet her at a place west of Stanton.
Hello? Hello, Joyce?
It's Diane.
Diane called me and asked me to go to Lone Fountain.
Diane, I don't think that's a good idea.
And it's way out in the country. And I refused, told her I couldn't go. And she said,
Then keep your mouth shut.
About what?
You know about what?
And that was the end of our conversation. I don't know what would have happened. I don't know what she had in store for me. She had something in store for me, but I don't know.
The phone call and her encounter with lead detective Davy Bocock silences Joyce Bradshaw.
I think that David Bocock knew that if I went talking, that Diane may kill me. There was no one else for me to go to.
Four decades later, Joyce's revelations, if true, mean a murderer is living free, and the city's most respected investigator is behind the cover-up of the crime.
I'll have to admit, I was naive to the point that I thought the police were honest people. They tried their best. But you know, 85% of all murders are committed by someone that knows the victim. And I always kept going back to that in my own mind.
To get to the truth, Lowell Sheets turns his attention to finding the mysterious Diane Crawford. He learns she attended the same high school as Carolyn Hevener Perry, likely the first victim shot at the ice cream store.
Yeah? Gonna cheer me on while I cheer them on?
Carolyn is a popular student. Diane is overweight and an outcast.
My mom, if you've seen pictures in high school, she did have a masculine look. She was very broad-shouldered, footballish even. She was heavy. She wasn't shaped like most girls. She knew early on that she was having feelings that weren't what she called weren't the norm.
Do you guys see her? See what she's wearing? She's wearing baggy pants.
I can't imagine in the 60s what it was like for her.
Diane's struggle with her sexuality isn't her only problem. Her home life is a living hell. Diane hates her stepfather, and with good reason.
There was no secret they did not get along, and that she said that he had molested her. I didn't know about the alleged abuse until I was well in my 20s.
She grew up being sexually abused, physically abused by her stepfather. She had to grow up under that, with that, and carry that for the rest of her life.
Lowell looks into Diane's connection with Stanton detective Davy Bocock.
In the early days, he was recognized as maybe top-notch. He had been trained supposedly in the FBI academy. He was highly regarded. He had a reputation as a competent, upstanding police officer.
Why would Bocock have had such a close relationship with Diane Crawford, a high school girl half his age?
How are you?
Good. You?
Doing good. I want you to come out to the farm this weekend.
Yeah? What day?
Saturday.
Around 2?
About 2 o'clock. Sounds real good.
Okay.
Okay. Push this right down and get us just like a spring again.
Bocock was a womanizer. Throughout his career, he would fraternize with younger women. He had been divorced, and of course, in speaking with his first wife, she'd tell you the same. That was the reason for the divorce. He would run out and about as he pleased with whoever he pleased. So why wouldn't it have been any different with Diane?
Okay. All right, you ready? I'm gonna stand here. And listen, this, go ahead and grab it. Go ahead and grab it. This is not like your...
It's obvious that my mom and Bocock had some kind of relationship. I mean, he taught her how to shoot a gun. I do know that. He spent some time with her, from what I hear, from my mom and from my grandmother. There was definitely a relationship, but I'm not sure of what it was.
What if their relationship had been intimate?
Diane would have had a lot over top of Bocock had he not helped her.
Take the bullet. Push
She could have ruined his professional life, his career, anything that he had built. She could have tore it down just by going to chief of police. Would have ruined him.
Or does Bocock have another reason for wanting to protect Diane?
I worked with him many years in many important and not so important cases. There was criticism of him as a womanizer. There was never criticism of him as a crooked cop.
40 years after the crime, suspect Diane Crawford is living unnoticed in Stanton and has been for decades. But she's dying.
She had kidney disease. She was a brittle diabetic.
Diane Crawford might be the only person who can help solve the murders of Connie and Carolyn, but time is running out, and she's not talking. 4 decades after Connie Hevener and Carolyn Hevener Perry's double murder, Lowell Sheets races against time to find answers. And that means finding new suspect, Diane Crawford.
Joyce had said that she was in a nursing home up Harrisonburg Way.
She was actually there under the name of Sharon Smith.
Within months of the brutal slaying of Connie and Carolyn at the ice cream store, 19-year-old Diane Crawford quietly moves out of town.
Diane Crawford, she had moved to North Carolina shortly after the murders and married a guy by the name of Smith. And matter of fact, she'd had 2 children by that man.
I didn't know that my mom was gay until I was 13. She told me how hard it was for her and that she wanted to do what was expected of her, which is the reason that she got married and she had kids, because it's what society says is right.
We later on find out Diane Crawford had divorced him and had moved back to Stanton from there and had been living in Stanton for about the last 20 years. She'd been living with a woman.
Diane Crawford, now known as Sharon Smith, is dying of heart and kidney failure in a nursing home 30 miles from Stanton.
I just walked right into the place. No one said anything. And when I went in, there she was. I told her who it was. I, of course, had the entree in the sense that one of the girls was a relative. And I started in on her about being a distant relative, and I knew she worked the highest ice cream. I never accused her of the murders, nor did I tell her about the gun threat. So I started talking to her about the murders, and she was just very nonchalant.
I don't know nothing about that.
It was like, well, I didn't know them, those girls. She didn't even know their names. She had no interest whatsoever in helping the cause.
That's when Lowell shows Diane Connie Hevener's wedding picture. Diane admits she recognizes the bride's mother.
Where'd you get this?
I said, oh, Miss Smoots gave them to me. And boy, before she could really think, she said,
Thought her mother got remarried.
I said, remarried? You didn't even know the girls' names and you know her mother remarried? Her lips start quivering and her face kind of turned a pallid look about her. And I thought for a second to myself, I said, she's probably gonna have a cardiac arrest here. And then what am I gonna do? I put my hand on her hand, kind of felt a little bit sorry for her because she told me she would die there in that bed. And I said, well, Diane, I hope I haven't upset you. I mean, I never did accuse her, didn't even intimate, but I did ask her questions. And she was really defiant. She was contentious.
Lowell keeps silent, waiting for answers.
Let me tell you something, all right? You said I wasn't questioned or interviewed? Well, we all were. Okay? I took a polygraph.
And I said, well, what happened? Put her hands up over her head. She said,
I'm still here, ain't I? I am still here.
Before leaving Diane's bedside, Lowell pulls out a gruesome picture of the crime scene to show Diane.
Get shot in the face, that's what happens, right? A lot of blood.
The comment stops him in his tracks. Besides the police, no one knows Carolyn got shot in the face.
Carolyn's body was found face down, and there apparently had been no indication in the news, so no one would know she had been shot in the face except the shooter. No one would know the angle to which Connie had been shot except the shooter.
Don't know there's been a confession, but I have all this in my mind that she's the one that had done it.
It's time to get the authorities involved.
My unit commander had come to me and said, look, Lowell Sheets is coming forward with some new information on the Highs case.
Cold case detective Mike King begins his investigation by digging into the field notes of the original detective, Davy Bocock.
There wasn't much forensic evidence. They recovered the bullets from the victims. Other than that, there really wasn't much to go on other than testimonial evidence.
King also checks Joyce Bradshaw's story about Diane Crawford's handgun and her murder threat.
The other's for that Hevener girl.
He studies Davy Bocock's original handwritten notes. They confirm Joyce's story.
Davy Bocock had written down exactly everything that Joyce Bradshaw had just told Lowell Sheets. Her version didn't change over 42 years. To me, that's credible.
In the case file, Detective King discovers a search warrant for Diane Crawford's car.
The search warrant was detailed on a 1965 Chevrolet. It had the driver of the search warrant detailed as Diane Crawford, and the item to be searched for was a .25 caliber small pistol.
Apparently, Bocock drops the ball. Court records show that he never executes the warrant.
I want to tell you, I checked on the story about Diane.
And there is nothing in the files to support Bocock's claim that he cleared Diane or her gun.
Information about what he had seized. And did he seize it? Was it ever in evidence? What happened to this supposed gun for which he got this search warrant?
According to Joyce Bradshaw, Bocock says the FBI tested Diane's .25 caliber handgun and found no match to evidence at the murder scene. FBI records show no such tests.
After having seen these field notes detailing this about Diane Crawford, why do I not find anything else in there about Diane Crawford, about the gun that she had, about the gun that he seized? Where is it? It's up to the lead investigator to document that.
To Mike King, Detective Davy Bocock has crossed a line.
I'm thinking dirty cop. Whether we stick together or not, honesty, integrity, trustworthiness, you burn that, then you're not a cop anymore in my book.
Authorities wonder if Detective Davy Bocock helped Diane Crawford get away with murder, and why.
That's when the police started visiting her.
Hi, Diane.
The idea was, let's send some people back there where they can corroborate each other or with a wire and see if we can get her to restate the confession.
Questions about what happened in
She knows why I'm there. I could see the fear in her talking to me. I could see it in her eyes. I could hear it in her tone, the tone of her voice. She knew why the Stanton police wanted to talk to her.
You might have some information that can help us finally solve this case.
Well, I don't know nothing about that.
The first time we sat down with her, nothing came of it. And her suspicion of why we were there to talk to her was only confirmed by myself and the other investigator. So naturally, the wall went up.
By the end of their first meeting, the dying woman doesn't reveal a thing.
I asked her, I said,
would it be okay if we came back and talked to you again?
I don't care what you do. Come, go, do whatever you want to do, all right?
And she was open to it. You know, that made me feel a lot better.
Carolyn Carolyn Hevener Perry's family also visit Diane to make a simple plea for the truth.
Please just let our family have closure.
The family members said, Diane, we know what happened. We feel that you're responsible. We want answers, and that's all we want for the family, for our own peace of mind. We've been dealing with this for 40 some odd years, and that's all we want, is to be able to close this thing.
Seeing her so close to death, no one is interested in sending Diane to prison.
She's old, she's sick. I just want to make sure that she can actually stay here and not go to jail.
That's what we're talking about.
The victims' families and her daughter ask investigators to give Diane immunity if she tells the truth about the murders. They reach an agreement with the detectives and prosecutor.
So, Diane, are you finally ready to tell us what happened that night?
I don't want anybody to hear this. I want everybody out.
I was there when they questioned her, and I do know that she had knowledge of some things that probably people didn't have knowledge to.
With her daughter Crystal and members of the victim's family waiting outside her hospice room, it's time for Diane Crawford's 40 years of silence to finally come to an end.
All right, we're here. What happened?
She knew that she was going to be able to stay there. She knew that she was going to be able to die there and that things were going to be okay. And I kind of used that to get a little closer, to dig in a little deeper. And she finally said that she did.
You always picked on me, you know. Made fun of who I was, the way I dressed, the way I looked. They didn't have any idea what was going on at home with me or anything about me. Snooty, uppity.
She was able to tell me what the girls were doing. She was able to tell me that they were cleaning up, counting money to close up shop.
We all worked in the ice cream parlor together, and
I'm not coming in tomorrow night.
Are you just asking for the day off?
I'm not asking, I'm telling you.
I don't understand.
I'm sick of the way you guys are acting towards me, the way you talk to me, the way you judge me, the way you treat me. I'm done with it.
I don't understand.
She was able to tell me who she shot first.
You pushed me too far, Carolyn. Carolyn?
She was able to tell me where she shot the first victim and where she shot the second victim.
Why did you do that?
And in what order. She was able to tell me it all.
Diane also admits grabbing money from the register to make it look like a robbery.
you know, I just kind of had it with everybody, everything, my whole life.
According to her, these girls, both girls, would pick on her about her being gay. And that, coupled with how she grew up and the things she dealt with, the abuse at home, she said she just snapped.
Carolyn!
Had enough.
Diane, you're under arrest for the murder of Connie Hevener and Carolyn Hevener Perry. You have the right to remain silent.
For the victims' families, no explanation could ever be adequate.
She took my daughter. That's all I can say. She took my daughter. And that's what she robbed me of.
I prayed to God. And I prayed to Connie. I said, I just got to know, are you okay? She told me, she said, brother, don't worry about me. I am with my Lord and Maker. And that helped. That helped a lot.
Diane Crawford never explains her relationship with Davy Bocock, saying only that she knew him as a police officer. He passed away 2 years prior.
Diane Crawford, now Sharon Smith, says in her last interview with the police that she did tell Bocock she had murdered the girls and he helped her hide the murder weapon.
What do I do with the gun?
Let me have it. It's better if I keep it. You okay?
Mm-hmm.
We did all that we could do in terms of trying to corroborate anything that she said. We weren't able to prove it or disprove it. With the lack of witnesses that are living, I think it's highly unlikely that we're gonna know.
Sharon Diane Crawford Smith is too ill to attend a preliminary hearing. She dies 13 days later. Stanton police search Bocock's farm for the gun, without success.
We followed that up with a police investigation by the Virginia State Police to see if they could determine any Bocock connection with a cover-up, and they could not.
I think most people preferred it to be some transient, some wacko that came off of interstate, or maybe two guys that were just trying to prove something. I think they preferred that story to anyone that really knew the victims themselves. I think that was maybe part of the problem, really, in finding the killer.
Stanton, Virginia's greatest mystery has finally been solved. Still, it provides little consolation.
No, these girls were both nice-looking girls, and it was just the innocence of them. It was a terrible, terrible thing.